Hello Science 100 students, this is Dr. Rick Whitman. I'm presenting an introduction to Module 4, which will begin this next week. In Module 4, you'll have 4 due items, and I'm going to go through each one of them. A quiz, 2 quizzes, a short answer, and a project. The short answer is easy to get distracted on, so I want to caution you as I go through this because I think I can help you stay away from pitfalls. So your first assignment of this week involves looking at an article about what is science, and here we want to concentrate on the video called Beware the Blob. Now this video captures what's been going on with California's drought especially, but it also explains why the last couple of years the Northeast United States, including the Midwest, has been pounded with some pretty heavy storms. As you move into Module 4-2, or the second part of Module 4, you want to think about who do you believe when you hear things in the news, or in reading an article. How do you can tell what's true, what's not, what's valid, what's not valid, how we get through this? And so I did find an article published just a day or so ago about the GoFundMe page is now not going to support the anti-vax fundraisers because it has become so controversial, and yet the evidence is stacked against these campaigners. This follows a large outbreak of measles on the West Coast, but measles is not the most serious thing that can happen. For comparison, I want to show you this. Polio is perhaps one of the most serious diseases of the last 120 years. We've eliminated many others. Smallpox just about doesn't exist anymore. Polio exists in only 3 or 4 countries, and in fact there's this YouTube video I'd like to point to you. Polio is kind of important to me because in my first grade class 3 people came down with polio. I was the lucky one. I got better. And in doing science, or in looking at science, or in reviewing science, the explanation, and if you look at Jenner, who today we'd accuse of child abuse. He took his one of his own children, took out what we'd call a penknife, nicked the boy's upper arm, and put pus from a cowmaid's hand. They used to get these sores on their hands into the boy's arm at a time when smallpox was common. He had observed, Jenner that is, that people who milked cows didn't get smallpox, and he attributed it to somehow or another was a relationship between these sores that these people would get on their hands to immunity from the disease. It was a long time ago. Of course, we wouldn't do it today, but his observation and a hypothesis. Observation is looking at what was going on. A hypothesis you should think of as an idea, and that he reasoned that the person would be protected from smallpox. So he tested it on his own son. He didn't use a control group. There were no, and it wasn't repeated a lot, but it turned out that it worked. This is back at a simpler time, and this was a disease that was easy to diagnose and to work around. So he applied scientific method without really knowing what he was doing at a time before we did this. I also have another link here to the history of vaccines, which I think you'll find interesting. Moving on, you have a quiz. Now, in this quiz, I urge you to have caution because you want to work facts, not emotion. That becomes even more apparent when you work the next part of this class, which is money and research, especially when it gets in tobacco, the tobacco ran a lot of ads to induce people to smoke years ago, and eventually the people against smoking were lining up emotional arguments that did not hold up in court. Now, the smoking lobby, the amalgamation of the companies, especially Philip Morris, actually paid to have some dubious research done, but they continued to prevail in court because they knew how to work the scientific method. And the people against smoking were arguing from emotion. And so here's something else I found just the other day. You have a short answer you're going to do about funding and research. Again, about smoking, just a week and a half to just within the last month, Supreme Court has backed away. Tobacco company says, oh, poor us, we're facing 2,300 lawsuits. We can't defend ourselves. Too bad, too sad. And they're not going to be able to hold off the lawsuits anymore. When you get to this short answer, I urge you to think twice about facts and emotion, and in science and in good college work, you want to show facts. So work it that way for success. So we then move on to this last project you have. This high point item. It has these steps. You're going to review what you've done. You're going to work this sample development worksheet. Then you're going to use the question template that you use to complete the project. If you do all that, things will work out in your favor. Again, stay away from emotion. And then you're going to submit your project. However, please be sure and check the guidelines and the rubric. The rubric is how I grade your paper based on the Southern New Hampshire matrix of what's important and what's not in that assignment. There's a fair number of points on the table this week. Your semester is based on 1,000. Keep up the good work. I'm very excited how most of you have done well so far, but you want to link fact to outcome. That's all I have for now. Drop me an email if I can help resolve anything for you. Do check your products, your work products here. Check them for accuracy, spelling, and grammar. Best way to do that is to go out to Microsoft Word and to use the file and then go down to options below it to check your grammar and your spelling. Now make sure you make all the settings, but it's not hard to do and it will save you a lot of headaches. That's all I have for now.